Hey guys, I've got a really interesting video to show you. There was an update or hotfix that went live at the same time DLC 3 went live. Within this hotfix, they buffed some of the action skills of the characters, including Moses Iron Bear. And big shout out to Angel's Kid and also Honda Riders. We worked together to put this loadout together and get the footage to show you guys how OP Moses Iron Bear is now. You literally just deploy the Iron Bear, get into the top of it, and then sit there and let the Iron Bear kill everything. When you're in the top of the Iron Bear, you are 100% in God mode, and the Iron Bear has a bubble shield that protects it, and you can stay in the Iron Bear, and the Iron Bear will stay deployed for a very, very long time. On Mayhem 10 and the DLC 3 main boss fight called the Ruiner, you can just hop in there, get into the mech, and the mech will do the entire boss fight for you. And the mech will last the entire time and then some. The Ruiner will go underground, and you're just chilling there on the surface, and then the Ruiner will come back up, and then the mech will finish it off. And this takes just a little over a minute. The Iron Bear will stay deployed, and you can stay in it for 2 minutes and 30 seconds without doing anything. Now there is a setup in the skill tree that allows you to go even longer when the Iron Bear is actually getting kills. This is a very easy setup and easy loadout. You don't need a lot of stuff. You literally need just one piece of equipment, and then the rest is all skill tree. But right here, you can literally just hit one button to deploy the Iron Bear and let it kill everything while you put your controller down and do nothing. A couple of things to know about this is that when you deploy the Iron Bear, you don't have to get in the top of it, but when you do, it allows the mech to deal more damage. And it also protects you, and you don't take any hits from any of the enemies. I'll show you guys what kind of damage this mech can do when you're in the top of it. So right here, we're on Mayhem 10 in the Malawan takedown, and you can see that it is dealing 370 million damage to those enemies. So yes, you can go up against any enemy with this. This works great in the Wu-Tan fight. It absolutely destroys him while you just sit and watch. If you are going to use this on Mayhem 10, which that's probably where you want to use it, there are some things you need to know about the lobby modifier settings. I'll show you guys that in just a moment, along with the skill tree and the one piece of equipment that you need to make this magic happen. This method is also really awesome in the new Guardian takedown, especially when you're doing those crystal steps, and I'll show you guys that in just a moment as well. What this Iron Bear is firing is the railgun, and the railgun fires electrified high velocity projectiles that deal shock damage, and then it's also set up to do corrosive damage. That's why you see the green and the blue. In addition to that, it is doing explosive rounds, and then there's a percentage chance that the shock will chain to other enemies. Another cool thing about this railgun is that the range seems to be infinite. You can be on one side of the arena, and this thing will target and hit enemies way on the other side. But right here you can see we're still in the mech. We've done nothing but get into the top of it, and it is clearing out this entire arena and taking down Wu-Tan on Mayhem 10. And right here you can see the mech is still going, so yeah, it's got a pretty long deployment time. This method is really helpful in the Guardian takedown whenever you're trying to defend the crystals. You have to stand by these crystals on this platform and charge them for 30 seconds while enemies are being thrown at you. You are able to go to the platform, stand near the crystals, deploy the Iron Bear, and get into the top, and you can defend and stand your ground for the full 30 seconds and stay alive and keep the mech alive as well. In this takedown, there's a new enemy that they added that has the orb above its head, and if it gets near you, it will explode, and with this method, you are 100% safe. It can walk all the way up to you and you're going to be safe, and here's one of them coming right now. The mech isn't able to target the critical hit spot on its head, and that's okay because when it gets near you, it's going to explode, but the mech has that bubble shield that's going to help protect it. And you can see right here that 2 of them exploded on this mech, and normally that would be an insta down, but you're totally safe in the mech, and we just finished the full 30 seconds of that crystal, and you can move on to the next one. Another thing that the mech is good for is the Anathema boss fight. That's the first main boss that you're going to reach halfway through this mission. Anathema will generate this energy orb that will expand and will explode and insta down you, but if you're inside the mech like this, then you are safe. I haven't tried it on the main boss fight at the end with Scourge. I'm assuming that it would work because it seems like it's the same type of mechanics. Scourge also generates an energy orb that creates an explosion that will insta down you, and I'm thinking, yeah, you could probably be safe if you got into the mech like this. If you guys have tried it, definitely comment down below. One thing I do know is that if you get into the mech right before Scourge teleports you to a new area, you can avoid that teleportation. So yes, lots of great uses for the mech and the Guardian takedown. Also, this mech build is set up so that when it gets kills, it keeps its fuel going. So if you go into like the slaughter shaft where there's tons of enemies, you can just get into the mech and go round after round and do absolutely nothing. You can finish all 5 rounds of this entire arena inside of this mech. Even though you are in God mode and the mech is set up to have a ton of health, there are certain types of damage that the mech can take that can destroy it. For instance, if enemies are firing a ton of corrosive damage at you, that could destroy the mech, but it's not a big deal. You just get back in it and keep going. One thing I want to talk to you guys about are the different modifiers in Mayhem 10 regarding the hard and very hard options. For very hard, I liked using Dazed and Infused. It seemed like this did not phase the mech. The mech was still able to wreck enemies regardless of what kind of immunity these enemies had. And remember, the mech is doing shock and corrosive, so if you have an enemy that's immune to shock, well then the corrosive is going to take care of it, and vice versa. And on top of that, you're doing explosive damage, so one of those is going to get the job done. One of the modifiers for very hard that I had a tough time with was the buddy system. That's where an immunity drone will follow around an enemy and keep them invincible until you kill that drone. One of the hard modifiers I would avoid is pool party. That's where the enemies will drop an elemental pool, and because the mech doesn't walk around, the mech ends up just standing in these pools and will take a lot of damage and it will kick you out. But those are just a few recommendations. There's a lot of options with these modifiers. You just have to play around with them. The one piece of equipment that we're using for this build that seems to work great is going to be the class mod for Moze called Rocketeer. The description reads, Auto Bear now lasts the rest of the duration that Iron Bear had left if Moze gets out early, removes any refunded cooldown for exiting early. All the other bonuses at the bottom are going to be whatever you like or whatever you can find, and you can farm this class mod from one of the proving grounds, and you need to go to the planet Precipice Anchor. It's going to take you to this proving grounds here called Discipline, and the enemies within this will be dropping it. And if you guys don't want to farm for this, I will have a couple of these in a save file, and I'll have that linked on my Twitter. I will have my Twitter linked down in the description on the top line. Also, this save file will be a Moze level 60, and it will already have the skill tree set up for this method and have everything ready to go. And if you guys want to set this up for yourself, I'll show you the skill tree that we have. So everything is based around the mech and nothing for Moze herself. We're giving the mech the best armor, the best health, and giving it a lot of fuel so it will last longer. You can copy everything I have here or put whatever you want, but one thing that is important is going to be the Daka Bear, and this is going to add a manned turret to the back of Iron Bear, and that's where Moze is going to be able to get on top of it, and the mech will be able to do more damage, and you'll be in God mode. This is everything I have for the blue skill tree. Most importantly, you want Auto Bear. After Moze exits Iron Bear, it allows for the mech to remain deployed. For the red and final skill tree, this is where you're going to be putting on the rail gun, and then also the bubble shield that's going to help reduce damage to the Iron Bear. But hopefully I covered everything, and I expect that they might nerf some of this. It does seem to be a little bit overpowered, but we'll see what happens. But I hope you guys enjoyed this, and we'll see you next video.